Good morning, everyone. To those of you who attended session 1 on August 11th, welcome back, and thank you for joining us again today. To those of you who are new, we are so pleased to have you joining us for session 2 of social media training for Carleton alumni and retirees. I'm Margaret Haynes, and I'm a proud alumna and retiree. And I'm also secretary of the Carleton University Retirees Association and a member of the Carleton University Alumni Association Executive Council. Like many of you, I love to stay on top of what Carleton is doing. It's my long-term employer and my alma mater, and it's wonderful to stay up to date on its activities and to stay in touch with past colleagues, with friends, and fellow alumni. A great way to do this is through social media, and Carleton has hundreds of social media accounts associated with faculties, departments, units, and programs, all of which share news and stories that might be of interest. Our friends at Carleton University's Department of University Advancement have organized this 2-part social media training session to help us get a better understanding of various social media platforms. And through these sessions, we are learning together, and we will develop our skills and confidence with social media so that we can use these channels to stay current with Carleton activities, to stay connected with each other, and to participate in Carleton events. Now in session 1, we focused on LinkedIn, and specifically we learned how to set up an account, how to build connections, and how to engage with Carleton content. Today, our session host, Carolyn Goodman, will cover other popular social media platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But before we get started, there are a couple of housekeeping announcements I'd like to make. First, in order to minimize background noise and to avoid some technical issues, we have decided to turn off attendees' cameras and microphones. However, secondly, we will be recording this session, so the recording link will be sent to you following the event today so that you can use it for future reference. And finally, following Carolyn's formal presentation today, there will be an opportunity for some Q&A. So we invite you to submit your questions using the Q&A box, which might be at the top or the bottom of your screen, depending on which device you're using. It's now my pleasure to introduce Carolyn Goodman, Carleton alumna and president of Goodman Marketing, who will be leading our training today. Carolyn graduated from Carleton with a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology and Sociology before going on to complete a certificate in creative advertising at Algonquin College. This certificate program launched her lifelong career in marketing and advertising. Carolyn has spent nearly 40 years at some of the top ad agencies in North America, working on well-known brands such as Molson's, Toyota, and Bell Canada. She started her own firm, her marketing agency, in 2002 and attracted clients like Microsoft, Aon Insurance, and Universal Studios. But 4 years ago, she was lured away to lead the marketing efforts for California Closets, a $500 million company with franchises across the whole of North America. She currently resides just north of San Francisco with her husband, Peter, and together they've raised 3 boys, one of whom graduated from Carleton just last year. An active alumna, Carolyn is the president of the Northern California chapter of the Carleton University Alumni Association. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you so much, Margaret. It is totally my pleasure to be here. I'm super excited this morning to talk to this group again and welcome to new attendees. Last month I did part 1 of this series, and during that time, it was interesting how much I shared and some of the great questions I got in response. So I used a lot of that knowledge to help fuel what we're going to talk about today. Today, as Margaret mentioned, we're going to talk about Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and discuss the role they play with Carleton and kind of help you get started. I will pause from time to time and Margaret can take questions. There'll be about 5 minutes in between each platform. So do come prepared with your questions. Thank you. Okay, the previous assignment was to create an account on LinkedIn and invite me to link into you. I am very disappointed with those results. Out of the 50+ attendees, only 3 people took me up on my offer. And I'm not sure if that's because they couldn't follow my instructions on how to set up their account or how to link into me, or if they were a little shy. But of the 3 people who I linked into, one, of course, was somebody who ended up being the same graduating year and lived in residence when I lived there. We've had a really nice exchange ever since. But why should you? I still invite you to link into me, either because we're fellow Carleton alum or simply because we're connected through this webinar. So to find anyone who attended Carleton on LinkedIn and have included it in their profile, simply use the search bar in LinkedIn, type in university, and look for the word Carleton University in people. Those options will lead you to other tools that you can narrow down your search. So you could choose to narrow it down by clicking connections. If you're, for example, if you're already connected to Margaret, then you'll be a 2nd-degree connection to me. And, or if you already know I live in San Francisco, you can, of course, choose locations, and you can either type in, click the United States or type that in. And I'm hoping that I can connect with each of you very soon. I look forward to it. And we'll talk about the stats on, maybe we have call number 3. So I'll call you out. Okay, so for today's session, let's start with an overview of the social media landscape. As of July 2021, this is ranking of the most popular social media networks worldwide, ranked by the number of active users. And remember, the numbers that you're seeing in front of you, these are in the millions. So today we're going to explore Facebook, which has 2.8 billion users, Instagram, and Twitter, as those are the platforms that Carleton uses the most to stay connected. But I'll also talk just a little bit about Facebook Messenger. Carleton also has a YouTube channel, but it's mostly aimed at incoming students or student life on campus. But before I begin, I really thought I'd spend a few moments talking about protecting your personal data, as I know that's a very big issue for everyone. I'm going to review privacy settings on each platform throughout the webinar, but I just wanted to note, companies have been collecting data about you for decades. And being in marketing, I'm a little ashamed to tell you, but I've been a buyer of customer data throughout my 40-year marketing career. The difference is consumers have become much more aware of the use of their data gathering, and of course, fraud is on the upswing. So net, everything that you do, whether it's using these social media platforms, buying a house, buying a car, getting married, divorced, giving birth, reading a newspaper, subscribing to a magazine, shopping online, everything you do, all that data is collected, sorted, and analyzed for statistical modeling and marketing purposes. And yes, some is used fraudulently, but it's very, very hard today to remain completely anonymous online. The good news is that data is far more protected in Canada than it is in the States, although California has enacted a pretty stringent law more recently. Just always be mindful that whenever you post or like anything we look at today, many people beyond those for whom you're connected to may be able to see it. So, what's the best way to protect yourself when online? Most accounts ask you to create a username. And if you're like me, you always think about using your email address, or maybe some username you'll remember. But here's my advice. Get yourself a free LastPass account. LastPass is a free password manager, and it stores encrypted usernames and passwords online. The free version comes with a web interface and plugins for various web browsers and apps for your smartphones. So the good news is you can create different usernames on every account you use, and then also use LastPass to generate a random password for you. You are completely in control. You can create a password that is just a few characters, which I strongly discourage, or a complex one like up to 90 characters, which seems like a little overkill to me. Most experts recommend between 12 and 15 characters. And with LastPass, you can choose what combination is used to make up your password. And again, experts suggest upper and lowercase plus some numbers and symbols. You can use LastPass to generate those passwords for you. So you can get something that's easy to read or easy to say, or quite frankly, more complex. Remember, All you have to do is click the button to let LastPass remember it after it's created. Then every time you log into one of your accounts, LastPass recognizes the website and fills in your username and password. And honestly, I have found this to be the most effective way to protect all of my accounts that I use online. Okay, so let's start with Facebook. Facebook is, of course, the most popular social media platform. And as I'm sure you know, this is a social networking site that makes it easy for you to connect and share content with family and friends online. It was the first social network to surpass 1 billion registered users. And as I mentioned before, there are 2.85 billion users worldwide. So you also know the company owns 4 other biggest media platforms. So in addition to Facebook, they own WhatsApp, which is an instant messaging service that allows users to send texts and voice messages and make voice and video calls. They also own Facebook Messenger, and they own Instagram. So in the first quarter of 2021, Facebook reported over 3.5 billion monthly users of all these products combined. It's a lot of people online. So if you're going to have to provide a few basic pieces of information when you set up any new social media account, because of course, other people have to find you, you're going to have to give, of course, your first name and last name. And of course, an email address, because that's how a lot of the verification happens. As I mentioned, you're going to have to create a password, plus your gender and your birthday. Now, the reason I personally like birthday, the good news is you don't have to include year, but the reason I like to include birthday is it'll notify your Facebook friends when it is your birthday, or it'll give you a reminder when your friend's birthday pops up. So of course, you can send them great birthday wishes. If you're still worrying about what that personal information could potentially be used for, there are a couple of ways aside from deleting your Facebook account for good. You could either deactivate your Facebook account and just switch to Facebook Messenger, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Or if you're not ready to stop using the Facebook app, you can create a new anonymous Facebook account, but you keep it very simple. While of course you'll need a different email address and a phone number from your original account, I've seen some people just spell their first or last name slightly differently, just try to keep their information more private. Staying anonymous on Facebook really does protect your privacy in more than that way, because should Facebook ever be compromised, if you have a fake account, you really don't need to worry about it as much. If you've already set up your Facebook account, check all your privacy settings to make sure they match your preferences. So on your smartphone app, which this visual is showing you mine, just click on the upper right-hand corner where you see those 3 little lines, and then scroll down on the next page until you see settings and privacy. Then just click on settings, and on that page, scroll down until you see audience and visibility. And there are a variety of setting options, and I encourage you to explore each of them to see what suits you best. Just make sure you're going through this one step at a time. To connect with Carlton on Facebook, click on the 3 horizontal lines in the upper right-hand corner, which will bring up the screen you're seeing here, and then click on the groups symbol. On mine, it's the one on the right. Then on groups, you simply click on Discover, and from there, you click on the magnifying glass that you see on the Discover page. From there, type in Carleton University in the search tool, and up pops all of the Carleton University groups that have been created. And it's very easy to join one of the groups. All you need to do is click on that group's link and hit the join button. Because it's a public site, no one needs to give you permission to be part of this group. There are over 8,000 members so far. And of course, I'm sure Carleton would welcome many more members from our alumni and retiree staff. On your desktop, okay, yes, this is my Facebook account. You'll notice that there's me and Bernie Sanders sitting on the beach together. Of course, he's wearing his mittens and I don't need to. But notice that I do use a picture of myself to make sure people can find the right Carolyn Goodman. And I list my maiden name. And that's so that many of my friends from high school and from Carleton can find me. But if you just click on that downward arrow in the upper right-hand corner and click on settings and privacy, and follow the previous instructions. You can set whether you've got a private settings, whether your friends can find you. There's a lot of privacy options there, and I won't go into all of them. But on your home page, if you also click on the little house icon in the left-hand corner, pardon me, that takes you back to your home page. On your desktop, and in the upper left-hand corner, there's a search bar, and below that, it lists groups. So if you click on that, it'll take you to the groups page. Again, type in Carleton University, and all of the groups will appear. All you need to do is find the group that you want to join, and because it's a public group, all you need to do is start following it. It's really quite easy. And quite frankly, this is the fastest way to keep following Carleton on Facebook. If it was a private group, then you have to submit a request and wait for someone to accept you into the group from the administrator. But you usually get a notice that you've been accepted right away. Okay, so, sorry, my slides are catching up here. You can also join all sorts of Carleton groups, aside from the Alumni Association or the Carleton University basic group. Like there's a Ravens football page. There is the Biology Society. Even Oliver's Pub has a page on Facebook, although Oliver's looks a little different from when I attended Carleton. But of course, you can also not forget about connecting to all of your friends, family, and Carleton alum throughout the world. After all, it is the biggest social networking platform in the world, and it's easy to connect to family and friends across the globe, as Facebook has members everywhere. Some notes about controlling who can see your posts. For example, I recently created this post to share a recent commercial in which one of my sons, Christopher, was acting. In my description, I tagged Christopher with his user Facebook name. And that means that when I did that, anyone who is friends with my son on Facebook will be able to see the post too. If you click the drop-down menu, you'll see I'm sharing the post with all of my family and all of his friends. But if you change that option by clicking on that drop-down menu, you'll see lots of options for this specific post. For example, if I only wanted members of my family to see it, I could cherry pick off who of my Facebook friends or family I wanted to have see that particular post. So always be mindful when you're posting something, who you want to have see it and who can see your post. Another thing to remember is when you follow a person or a group, anyone who comments, like I follow this group called Some Good News, anyone who comments on this post is visible to you, and therefore you're visible to them. Quite frankly, you want to be mindful about what you post. In this particular instance, this person talked about cats when the post was about dogs. Things sometimes get a little more controversial from that level, but just be mindful of all the people that are able to read your post, your comment when you post to somebody else's account. So that's an overview of Facebook. And I'm going to take just a few seconds to talk about Facebook Messenger, because this is a platform originally developed as Facebook Chat back in 2008. And it allows Facebook users to connect with each other and send instant messages, emojis, photos, videos, etc., all from within the Facebook app. You can even now send money to friends, get the weather, place product orders, and get a quick ride with the integration of Uber and Lyft. Plus, it has a calling feature. And I've made plenty of phone calls through Messenger to Facebook friends from around the world. So back to my homepage. When I look in the upper right-hand corner, you see the Facebook Messenger symbol. When you click on that, a list of anyone you've received a message from pops up, including groups you follow. For example, since I follow NBC News, and they're constantly in my Messenger feed, this pops up and I can easily see what the latest news alerts are that they're sending out. So to find Carleton, to find friends, simply start by clicking their names in that toolbar. Okay, that was a lot of material. Before I move on to Instagram, I'm going to check in with Margaret. Margaret, are there any questions that we want to address at this time?
Not so far. We did have an earlier question asking that when the recording, we include the question and answer session, which of course we will. So are there
So
any
we're in great
questions
shape.
out there? Not so far, Carolyn.
Excellent.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I've
Oh.
got one for you from
Okay.
Catherine. Says, can I block posts from friends of friends?
You can, but it's very difficult to do, because if your friend has commented on it, then it's coming into your news feed. So for you to block that friend, you'd have to actually block your first degree friend first. So unfortunately, you can't block a second degree friend if the first degree friend posts and it shows up in your news stream. Typically, what I see are some controversial posts that I disagree with, and I have learned very quickly just to scroll right by and keep on going.
We have another one says, how can I change my photo?
So again, if you go to those three little dots and go to your settings, always look for privacy and settings. There is a place you can click on your photo. There's a little picture of a camera. And if you click on that, you can upload and change photos that you've had up there before, both for your picture of yourself and for that background photo I showed you with Bernie sitting with me on the beach. Both of those can be changed.
Okay, and another question, do you have to change your privacy settings for every post?
You do not. If you set up your basic privacy settings, they remain throughout all the posts that you have. The reason I showed that separate setting is sometimes you might want to share something that is a fairly private piece of news, but you want to let everyone in your connections know, and not everyone in all the other connections know, especially if you mention someone in your post. So as you noted on that post where I had my son Christopher, I did what's called tagged him. I could have written, here's the latest commercial for my son Christopher, and not added his Facebook name or his Facebook handle to that post, and then none of his friends would have seen it. That's another way around it. But I just was trying to show you that there's lots of ways that you can share posts more privately.
So we've got lots of questions coming in. Next question was, will the first session be available for us to see as well as this session? And I can tell you, yes, indeed, it will be. You should have already, if you only registered recently, registering today will give you access to both ones. But if you were on the original session, you should have had an email with a link to that already. The next one was, in Messenger, how do I block certain members?
Again, if you're friends with them on Facebook, you can't block them in Messenger. You're going to have to unfriend them, basically. And quite frankly, to be truthful, I ignore lots of messages that come into me. If I don't want to respond, I just ignore them.
Okay. We've got a few more, and then we're going to have to move on.
Yes.
This is a question that I think I'd asked you before, which is it considered bad manners to simply lurk on Facebook without posting yourself? Something I do all the time.
Not at all. Not at all. I think what's kind of fun about Facebook is you can spread your relationships, meaning you are linked into them. Excuse me, you are Facebook friends with them so that they see your posts. But honestly, I don't say to myself, gosh, I haven't seen a post from Margaret lately. That just doesn't even occur to me. Sometimes I wonder if I'm still friends with Margaret if she hasn't posted in a long time. But if I do see Margaret commenting on my post, then I know we're still friends. So no, there's nothing wrong with lurking on Facebook.
Okay. We have another one saying, can I remove all the "you may also know" people in one go?
You cannot.
Okay. And then a question I think you've answered, but is Messenger a specific app?
It is a specific app. You can use it either on its own, or you can use the integrated version, which is automatically integrated into Facebook. All you need to do is Google Facebook Messenger and download that piece of the app. All right, let's save those questions. Let's go on to Instagram, and we can circle back to those at the end.
Okay.
Thank you, Margaret.
You're welcome.
Okay, so enough about Facebook for a minute. Let's move on to Instagram. This also is a free social media platform for sharing primarily photos and videos. And in fact, they're becoming more prevalent on the video side than they are on the photo side. To start using Instagram, you need to download the app onto your device and sign up for an account. It's available free on most devices. And if you use an iPad, make sure to tap the App Store icon on your iPad home screen and then search and download the Instagram app that way. You can either create a new account or log in with your Facebook account, because remember, Facebook owns Instagram. If you choose to make a new account, the process is pretty straightforward. You'll be asked for your phone number, an email address, your name, desired username and password. And again, I'd suggest LastPass to generate a random password. So this is what I see on my phone when I log into my Instagram account. First, this is the news feed. And the first post I see is the latest post from my friend, Emily Riemann. But also at the top of my page, you'll see a series of circles. And these are primarily video stories. And when you click on one of them, you'll see their story, which usually runs just a few seconds. And while I can't show you the motion on this, this was oh my gosh, I've lost the term for that fish floating through space. That was moving on her little post of her son. If you see the link for it, the next one comes up automatically when the first video ends. And in the next story, you often see the words link in bio. And that refers to the one link that's in the sponsor's bio. So for example, if I hover over this Carleton post, alumni post, you see the words see post, which pops up. If you click on that, or you click on the link in bio, it will take you to their Carleton Alumni Instagram page. And you might notice the call to action is to register at the site where there is a link in the bio. So again, you go back to their site, and on the Instagram, this gets a little tricky. This is how the Alumni Association has really mastered Instagram, and kudos to them for doing this. If the story you're following is older than 24 hours, you could assume that this link in their bio, this is the singular link that was referred to in the Instagram post. You can assume this is expired and been removed by the sponsor and replaced with a new link. But Carleton uses a tool called Linktree. So when you click on the link in their bio, it takes you to this page and you see all of their non-expired links from all of the posts they've been doing. So whether you're looking for the milestone celebration or the throwback or the homecoming, or even to register for this event, those links are still live. But again, link in bio refers to one link, and the link tends to change if people are posting every 24 hours what that link is serving for you. Just like in Facebook, there are a number of ways to follow Carleton on Instagram. In addition to the Alumni Association, you could follow their official Instagram account. All you have to do is click the follow button at the top. Or if you want to follow maybe a favorite Ravens team, there are plenty of them to follow. And all you have to do is type Carleton Ravens in the search bar. So just like most social media apps, whenever you make a comment on a post, remember it can be seen by everyone else. So I chose a post. I follow the royal family, kind of a fun group to follow. And if I hover over the name of the individual who has just commented on this post, this is someone I don't know. And as you can see, their account is private. And what that means is I can't see anything else about them except the number of posts, the number of followers, the number of people they're following. I can't see anything else about them because that's the way they've set up their status in Instagram. So I can only connect to Erica if I send her an invitation to connect. And of course, she might not know who I am, and so she refuses. It isn't good social etiquette. It's fine to refuse having someone follow you. In fact, on my account, I constantly turn people down because I don't know who they are and I don't want them following me on Instagram. So normally only her approved followers can see her personal posts, including any likes and comments. But because the royal family's account is set up as a public account, her comment is visible to everyone. Remember that. Okay, now, to make your Instagram account private, start by clicking on your profile picture in the bottom right-hand corner. In this case, my profile picture is of my dog. Why? Because Facebook is my primary connection to friends and family. And on Instagram, I have a lot of business associates and we have a little bit of fun through work. So I didn't feel that I needed to post my personal picture image as well. And that really brings up your Instagram page. So then you want to click again on the little 3 lines in the upper right-hand corner of your account page. Then click on settings, choose privacy, right? And then once you get to your privacy page, you want to be able to set your account to private if that's what you want. It's just a matter of clicking the switch from the left to the right. I actually keep my account private, public. So that allows me to invite people in, refuse people. I've gone back and forth with this setting, to be quite honest with you. Sometimes privacy is easier, but sometimes when friends are asking, it's a lot of extra work to accept them or not accept them. So you can go back and forth and change your settings all the time, quite frankly. But if you switch that little button, then only your followers will be able to see the photos and videos that you post. It doesn't change anything about who you tag or mention or message, but private posts you share to other social networks may be visible to the public depending upon your privacy settings. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of questions coming in there, Margaret. Do we want to address a few of them? And you're on mute, Margaret. Margaret, you're on mute.
Okay, I just was going to say that actually the only question, we've only had one question come in to do with Instagram. Do you want to do with the Facebook questions before we move on, or?
Sure, certainly.
Okay, so the last Facebook question, I'm not quite sure, and I don't know who this was. It said, can I not have a picture of self? Not sure what that quite means for Facebook, but.
So Facebook, you can have a picture of yourself. You can have a picture of your dog. You can have a picture that's blank. You can put, some people put up celebrity pictures of their favorite celebrities trying to pretend that they're someone they're not. You can put pretty much whatever you want.
And then another question about Facebook, how do I recover my drafts on Facebook?
You cannot. I think what they're asking me is they've created a post and then they ended up not posting it. If you've moved on and done other things in Facebook, there is no such thing as a drafts folder like there is in your email. Unfortunately, that post is lost.
Another question, how do I find a Facebook profile?
If you click on your picture in the upper right, sometimes it's in the upper right-hand corner. If you click on your photo, that usually brings you back to your whole settings of your account. Look for account settings. It's usually the fastest way to get there.
Then someone's asking, how do I unfriend someone?
Oh gosh. Yes, unfriending. You can actually click on their image and there'll be a settings option that comes up, and that one of them is unfriend. It's not a very nice term, but yes, you can unfriend them. Now, my kids would tell me, just as FYI, there is another way to do it so your friend doesn't know that you've unfriended them, but I've never done it and I don't know what that is. You might want to Google, how do I stop following somebody and make sure they don't know that I've unfriended them? I actually don't know how to do that.
Okay. Can people know when you've looked at their page if you're not a friend?
No. So unlike LinkedIn, where people can see that you have looked at their LinkedIn profile, on Facebook, that's not true.
Okay. How do I change my password on Facebook and set up a 2-step authentication as protection against hackers?
So step 1, get LastPass, so you get a much more preventable password from being hacked. That would be my first step. But again, if you go into your settings and look up settings and privacy, one of the choices will be reset your password. And it'll give you some very step-by-step easy options to go through and change your password. And again, I highly recommend you don't use the same password over and over again. And I'm going to tell you a tip that I want you to never do. Don't do what I do. This is my password book. I write down all of my passwords. And I started doing that years ago because I couldn't remember all my various passwords. I now use LastPass, and I have LastPass generate random passwords. So I'm slowly going through that book and going to each of the sites that I have registered and changing my password to something that's stored by LastPass. Because if I ever lose this password book, I could be toast. And I really figured that out because my Amazon password is in there, and I wouldn't want my kids shopping on Amazon without me.
Okay. I think you may have asked this one as well. How do I create a post on my Instagram account?
So you just bring up, when you bring to your homepage, one of the choices is to add a post, and you just literally start typing.
Okay, and this one I'm not sure we can answer. It says, I don't seem to be able to access the same screens. For example, I don't have the ability to modify information. I think that may be a user-specific question.
Yeah, I find sometimes Facebook is a little easier to manage on your desktop. For me, I find my phone a little limiting in space and size and fat fingering things. So you can also access your account on your desktop, and it gives you a little more, what I call a little more elbow room to search around. But it's quite easy. I mean, most of these things are using the three little bars I showed you, or clicking on your image. One of the two of those typically gets you to all of your settings.
Okay, and two last questions, I think, before we move on. Is it worth opening an account on Instagram?
It depends. I have some friends who've given up on Facebook and are no longer there. So when I want to post something and share some big news, the people that are on Instagram don't hear about it. That said, if I take a photo, I do have the option on my phone to post it to both accounts at the same time, so that it gets posted to Instagram and it gets posted to Facebook at the same time. The difference is, in Instagram, you can tag people. So if Margaret and I had our picture taken together, I could go into Instagram and I can tag Margaret that that's her in the photo, versus in Facebook, I'd have to mention her and tag her separately. So the tagging issue gets a little challenging, but it's up to you. It depends where your friends live and reside. And quite frankly, there was a big movement to get off Facebook and onto Instagram with a lot of my friends, but I'm a little old school. I still have both accounts.
Okay, we've still got more questions about Instagram. There's a suggestion from one of our attendees to say in Facebook, if you hide the person's post if you don't want to see it and you don't want to unfriend them. So I guess you can just hide their post. One question about LastPass, does it have a password itself?
It does, but the way LastPass is set up, you don't need to remember that password. Mine is set up on my desktop so that every time I go to a website, it instantly, LastPass recognizes it, and LastPass pre-fills out my username and my password right away. So it sits as a little icon in the upper right-hand corner on my desk, on my my Google, if I'm sitting on Google.
Okay, we have a couple of questions more, but I'm just going to ask this last one. It says, how do we know that LastPass cannot be hacked?
Well, we don't know that LastPass can't be hacked, of course, but it is the largest vault system, and they have a very, very high privacy rate. And quite frankly, I work for a company that has, as a publicly traded company, we are required to use LastPass for all of our storage. And I even got a message from my IT team that I used my same password too many times. So there's monitoring going on from an IT standpoint. So I consider LastPass very, very secure, and it's certainly better than the notebook method. Please don't use that.
Okay, we have about 4 more questions, but I think
Yep.
we'll move on and deal with them at the end.
Yes, thank you, Margaret. Okay, so the last platform I'm going to explore today is Twitter. So tweets are limited to 280 characters of text, and that includes spaces. Oh, I missed a slide. I do beg your pardon. I'm going to go back one slide for a minute. Okay, Twitter is a micro blogging site and a social networking service. And this is where users post and interact with content. So tweets are limited to 280 characters of text, up to 4 photos, and video content that's up to 2 minutes, 20 seconds long, excuse me, or links to something that's on the internet, like a YouTube video or a blog post or a news story. Registered users can post and like and retweet tweets, meaning they repost them to their followers. Unregistered users can only read posts. So just like Facebook and Instagram, I can see comments of the people I follow on Twitter that they have made on other users' posts. For example, I'm going to call out my brother, Peter Francis. If he's in a community and he posted something that somebody named Timothy Jarvis had posted. Now, I can click on this little message bubble and I can reply to my brother's post by adding my own comment directly below his, or I can click the retweet post, which means I'm going to repost what he's just posted, or I can indicate that I liked his response by clicking the little heart button, little heart icon, or if I click this little, what I call the upload icon, a little box appears with lots of other choices. So I could take that comment and send it via direct message back to somebody. I could copy the link to a tweet, or I could share the tweet via another platform. So there are lots and lots of options here that you want to be very careful to use. So I could also bookmark his tweet. And, these are some of just the other options that I can do. On the left-hand side of my Twitter homepage, there are other options like the hashtag explore. So clicking on this option brings up topics that are trending on Twitter. And across the top are specific topics that are trending based on hashtags. So for example, if you added that hashtag or the pound sign to the beginning of an unbroken word or phrase, it creates the hashtag. And when you use the hashtag in a tweet, it becomes linked to all of the other tweets that use the same hashtag. So for example, here's a hashtag around Tokyo 2020. If I clicked on that particular hashtag, it will bring up the page. This page features all the tweets about Tokyo 2020 because it's organized by the most recent tweet that included that hashtag. But it also organizes subtopics around that hashtag. For example, the Paralympics. If you click on notifications on the left-hand bar, you'll see tweets that are recommended for you to read based on who you're following. So this has gone through an algorithm of your behavior and said, oh, here's things you might be interested in. And as you can see, Carleton University News is popping up at the top, right? And other things that are recommended for me. It also, like Facebook and Instagram, if you hover over a name, their profile will pop up and a little profile of who it is, and I can choose to follow them if I'd so want to. Here's my Twitter profile page. Unfortunately, I have the misfortune of having the same name as the mayor of Las Vegas, and she says some pretty questionable things. So I've been forced to change my profile description to read, "Still not the mayor of Las Vegas." That has helped somewhat, but I still get tweets directed at me with their anger, and I tweet back little snarky messages. So I have a little bit of fun with it. But you can see that I'm not a hugely active Twitter fan because my last post was on February the 11th. I do read news posts regularly, so I'm a bit of a stalker on Twitter, and especially when I'm traveling. And it's been, unfortunately, very little for the last 18 months. So one last comment here. If you want to keep your tweets private and only let them be seen by your followers, click on the More button. That will bring up a list of options. Those, then you want to click on Settings and Privacy. That'll bring up your settings page, and then click on Account Information. You'll have to enter your password here. And once you do, you'll see the option to choose Protect Your Tweets right here. So just change your settings to Protected Tweets and you're all set. Now, Remember, if you change your mind and you want to unprotect your tweets, go through the process again, return to this page, and deselect the box when it's prompted and choose cancel. So how do you find Carlton on Twitter? Use the search bar in the upper right-hand corner, and that will drop down all of the Twitter accounts related to Carleton University. There's a host of options. You can see that I'm already following the university, but also you might want to follow the Alumni Association. And it notes that we follow each other. That means that the Alumni Association is following me on Twitter and I'm following them. But there are lots and lots of other Carleton groups you can follow that you don't even need their permission to follow them. For example, if I wanted to follow research at Carleton University, all I have to do is click on that. It'll take me to their homepage. And then all you do is click the follow button and you'll start seeing their tweets in your Twitter feed. Whew, it's a lot of work to get out. Okay. That was a lot of material. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Margaret,
Yes.
Are there other questions?
There certainly are. Got about 7 or 8 questions. I'm just having to scroll down. Now this goes back to Instagram. Somebody wants to know, how do I know when my Instagram friends have posted a new picture?
So you can set within your settings that a little icon pops up on your phone when there are new posts from your friends. Instagram has that as well, as does Twitter. But honestly, my phone sits there. It would ding all day. So you want to go into your apps on your phone also and set your settings. I have mine set not to do that, honestly, because my phone would ding constantly, but you can set that setting up. It's pretty easy to do. And if you don't know how to do it, this is my advice for every question you're asking me. You can go to Google and just search for the question.
Okay.
There's lots and lots of Q&As on each platform that pop up with the answers.
Somebody is saying, I don't have the 3 lines in Instagram. Suggestions?
I don't know if you're on your phone or your desktop, but if you're on your phone, I don't really know how to answer that question because they should be there. You should first go to the lower right-hand corner on your phone and click your image, your little picture of yourself. Then that brings up the page and you should be able to see the lines in the upper right-hand corner. Perhaps that's what they mean, that because when you first log on, you're actually in your feed. You're not on your account settings.
Okay. Somebody's asking, I think there's a question, LastPass versus Google password.
I actually use both. I don't know why, but I just do. LastPass is super helpful, I think, a little bit better if you don't always use Google as your search platform. So if you, God forbid you use another one, but because Chrome is the most popular one, but I actually use both. But LastPass stores it, as does the Google app stores it as well. One thing I should mention, if you ever decide you're going to sell your computer, refurbish your phone, etc., make sure you wipe everything off your phones to make sure that other people can't access your LastPass account. Okay.
Does LastPass need to be on both the desktop and iPad?
Yes.
Okay, that's a quick answer. Is there a Carleton Alumni computer mobile devices user group?
I don't know. Maybe there is. I would have to research it on each of the platforms to see if I could find it. I have not noticed one, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Carleton has hundreds of accounts on these platforms. And if you don't have one, maybe you could start one.
Somebody has started a revised question, but didn't finish it. So I've only got revised Q as the question. So we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Another one, how do you create a hashtag?
You literally type the hashtag, and on my keyboard, it's above the number 3 on my keyboard. And on your phone, it's when you switch from the alphabet, you can, on the bottom left-hand corner, you can, like you're going to do uppercase or you're going to do whatever, you just change that until you get to all your symbols. And you literally just type the hashtag symbol and then the words. And you might notice on people's posts, they'll post something of, their kids at the cottage, and they'll add 10 hashtags, hashtag great summer, hashtag summer of 2021, hashtag living the dream, hashtag whatever. You can make up your own hashtags, but know that when you do that, your post will be seen. If somebody searches that hashtag, you'll be included in that cumulative effect of hashtags.
Here's a good question. Can I transfer LastPass contents to a new computer or a second computer?
You can. When you get to a new computer, you go to LastPass and download the app again and just log back in with your credentials that you opened your original account with, and then it transfers things over. Yep, which is probably a great answer to the question, should I also use the Google storage system? Because the Google storage system, I don't think transfers with you, but I could be wrong on that.
How do I build more followers for my Twitter?
That's a really good question. So when I ran my own business, I wanted to increase my followers, of course, because I wanted to increase my business. I started following brands that I wanted to infiltrate, get a connection to. I started looking for other people who were following me. I followed them back immediately as they started following me. More importantly, I started posting content that was interesting so that people wanted to follow me and I could build my followers that way. Being in marketing, I was posting articles, I was posting my opinion about certain changes. There are some very popular Twitter folks in the marketing field. I followed them and I would repost a lot of their content and then add my own commentary to it. That helped me build up quite a few followers that way.
Okay, here's a good question. I have a very old account that I do not remember starting, and it's not from me, but I could easily be asking this. Can I reactivate it and change its password?
You can. So let's just say it's Facebook. When you go to the screen to log in, as long as you can remember your email address, typically, you can reset password. It will email you a link to your email account, as long as you still have that same email account, and will give you an opportunity to reset your password. That's true for almost any of these accounts. Some of them connect by phone, so they'll send you a code to your phone that will pop up. So if you've got those two connected, make sure you've got your phone. If you're on your desktop, make sure you have your phone handy. I was doing it last night because I couldn't remember my Twitter password, and it basically came up and said, do you want us to send this to your phone? And I was like, oh, yes. And it sent me a code, and then you clicked on that code when it showed up. You filled out that code on the screen when it showed up, and then it immediately sent me to change your password screen so that I could change my password.
And then the question that wasn't finished before was part of the question, originally LastPass versus Google, but the second part is Instagram versus Pinterest.
So Instagram is really moving to be a video platform. Pinterest is a pure, I think, place for pinning pictures that you like. Pinterest is used as a tool to get, like let's say you're into cooking and recipes, and you are pinning, if you will, on your board, lots of pictures. Pinterest does a really good job of grouping all those pictures together. I especially like Pinterest for if you're doing a home renovation or you're redecorating and you want to get inspired. There's lots of great pins about beautiful couches or paint colors for rooms. Instagram, it doesn't really operate that way. Instagram is more you posting things that you like and it feeding it into your news stream. So unless you're using hashtags, which starts to get a little more complicated, I think Pinterest is an easier platform for cooking and fashion and decorating tips.
Okay. This is a question about Twitter. Does the maximum 280 character size include the characters in links and hashtags?
It does.
Okay. And there's a question, how do I set up and use the QR code? This will be needed for COVID passports.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm very sorry. I'd Google it.
How do you remove a follower?
Depends on the platform. You can unfriend on Facebook, as I mentioned before. On Twitter, I believe there is a setting. I've never done it, but I believe there's a setting. Again, go to your privacy and settings, or click on the person who's following you. There's probably a drop-down menu there that you can change
Yeah.
them from being a follower.
This
I've never
person
done it.
clarified it later that it was Twitter he was interested in.
Yeah, I know you can do it. I just don't know exactly how to tell you to do it at this moment. I'm sorry.
Okay, and then this is a comment from somebody who says, I'm not sure I'm in the right place here. As an 82-year-old computer social media dummy, I have other thoughts on these sessions. Not quite sure how to answer that other than it sounds like maybe more sessions.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you have, friends that you'd like to stay connected to, Carleton alumni, grandchildren, children, Facebook is really the easiest platform to use to do all those things, plus using the tool Facebook Messenger, where you can send them a message, you can make a phone call, you can make a face-to-face phone call on Facebook Messenger. It is so easy that the first time I ever did it, and I called my sister on Facebook Messenger, when she answered the phone, she popped up on the screen. I was kind of like, oh, I wasn't expecting to see her live. And now that's my favorite way of calling.
Okay, thank you. And I think we've answered the last question was how do we know that LastPass cannot be hacked? And we'd sort of already talked about that. Oh, another question has popped up, which is you can unfollow. It's a comment actually. You can unfollow a person on Facebook instead of unfriend them. So that's
thank you. That's what my kids were telling me, but I just didn't know it.
And then somebody asked what a QR code was.
Yeah, a QR code is a graphical set of series of dots that is square. You can see my hands. That is actually a link. So you take your phone camera, and when you hover over that QR code, it instantly takes you to a specific page that the URL is embedded in that code. Restaurants have been using them here in California for their menus. So they don't hand out menus anymore. They're literally on the when you get to your table, there's a little your camera over it, and up pops their menu. That's what a QR code is.
Okay. So I think we're going to close the questions. We haven't had many after that. And I just want, Carolyn, do you want to say anything before I do my closing remarks?
No, I just want to say we're right on time. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you for all the great questions. I really appreciate it. I know a lot about the social media platforms, but clearly I still have a lot to learn as well. So thank you for those great questions.
Great. Well, Carolyn, I just want to say on behalf of Carleton's retiree and alumni associations, thank you so much for your time and insightful guidance today. This is an extremely informative and practical session that will help us in our efforts to connect with Carleton and our peers through social media. I want to make a sincere thank you to all our attendees as well for your participation and great questions, as Carolyn has said. And please keep an eye on your inboxes because we will share the recording for this event for your future reference, and it will include all the questions that I've read out. And we look forward to connecting with you on social media. Thanks again, everyone. Goodbye.
Don't forget to link into me. Thank you, Margaret.
Okay, great.